incredible props to Brian Flores from the standpoint of courage, because it takes a lot of courage to do what he's doing, and clearly he's not doing it just for himself. He is in pursuit with a class action lawsuit, basically inviting other coaches to come in and maybe and likely express themselves and show how the conditions which he feels that he's been subjected to is similar to what a lot of black coaches have been going through for quite some time. And we all know what my position has been as it pertains to African-American coaches, particularly in the National Football League. In college football is just as, if not more egregious, at least until recently. The NFL, what I've reminded people over the last few weeks, Keyshawn, is that the Rooney Rule was instituted in 2003. When the Rooney Rule was instituted, essentially compelling you to at least interview African-American coaches and give them something close to a fair and equitable opportunity, there were 3 African-American coaches in the National Football League. We are 19 years removed from the institution and implementation of the Rooney Rule, and there is now 1 head coach. There have been about 7 or 8 openings this offseason for NFL head coaches. 5 people have been hired. None of them have been black as a head coach. And so when we look at it from that perspective, it is clearly alarming. Now, let me get down to this. There are people that are saying Brian Flores doesn't have much of a case. You heard the National Football League say it's meritless. I'm not buying that one bit. You know, I'm familiar with court proceedings and what have you, and there's something called summary judgment. And I believe that man is going to get past that. He is going to get past summary judgment, and there is going to be some explanations that the NFL is going to be required to disseminate. Bottom line. Number 1. Number 2, the New York Giants. We don't know the facts. We have to hold out. But let me say this to the New York Giants. As an organization, when it comes to black coaches, I don't believe a damn word you have to say. There's nobody more incriminating than the New York Giants. We are in the year 2022, okay? All of these years, damn near a century, for crying out loud. Football has a century. Football has existed. There's one franchise that has not had one single black coach. That is the New York Giants. And we don't even want to get started. I know you had a black GM, but you have never hired a black coach. When you're talking about 53 men on a roster, practice squad, and everything like that, basically you're talking about you don't trust an African-American to be a leader of men. That's the Giants organization, okay? So nobody's giving you the benefit of the doubt. You better be able to prove something, and that's something else. Denver Broncos, different matter. Okay, when you're talking about Don Elway being disheveled and looking the way that he looked and you know, accusing him of being inebriated or whatever the case may be, I'm not getting into all of that. What I will say to you is this, Key. The most damning thing that was said that I peeled from this lawsuit is Stephen Ross, the owner for the Miami Dolphins, the guy that has this organization. I want to make sure I look it up. Just remember, the Ross Initiative in Sports for Equality, okay? This is what Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, has created. He's contributed millions upon millions of dollars to the cause on behalf of African Americans. And you hired Brian Flores. You have a black GM in Chris Greer. And that is the guy that is being accused in a lawsuit of going up to Brian Flores and encouraging him to throw games, to lose games on purpose, and even offering him $100,000 for every game that he lost. If that is found to be true, Stephen Ross can no longer be an owner for an NFL franchise. He's got to go. If that is true, and only if that is true, he's got to go. You talking about compromising the integrity of competition? He would be in flagrant violation of that. There would be no excuse to keep him on as an owner. And oh, by the way, it would open up an avenue that Brian Flores clearly is interested in broaching, and that's in getting minority ownership, meaning black ownership in the NFL. There's plenty of owners that don't own the team by themselves. They got a group that all put in their money, and there's enough black folks around that want to have an ownership stake in an NFL franchise. And one of the ways to make that happen is Stephen Ross being gone. I'm not encouraging him to be gone, Keyshawn, if this isn't true. But if this is true, Stephen Ross has got to go. He cannot stay on as owner of a National Football League team.
Keyshawn, before you jump in, I just want to say one thing. The Giants, and I'm a fan of the Giants, obviously, also the last team to start a black quarterback. as well, and that was Geno Smith. Key?
Well, look, in terms of the Miami Dolphins, I think we all know, Jeff Saturday, myself, and others who played the game, coaches coach to win. They don't coach to lose football games at all. I understand you wanted the tank to get a better quarterback, a better draft position, but that wasn't going to clearly happen with Brian Flores because he didn't do it. The team started off poor, as you can see, but then they eventually got better over time because they fought for him. So that just goes to show you right there the character of Brian Flores and his ability to get those guys to play for him. Now, in terms of the Giants situation, I don't know enough about it. There's more to come out clearly in this situation. But if somebody is going to run a class action lawsuit against the NFL and other 32 teams in the National Football League, he certainly has something. There's something there that does not sit right. We can look at it, Stephen A. and Jeff, in recent history in the National Football League. People are paired together. General managers are paired with coaches that they hire, whether it's John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, whether it's what just happened with the Raiders, the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott along with Brandon Beane, and now you're looking at the Giants situation when they came over from Buffalo. Now, all of a sudden, Brian Dable becomes the head coach. He was essentially, in my opinion, a dead man walking as a head coach, Brian Flores, even though he did the Zoom interview on that Monday and was scheduled on that Thursday and got the text messages from Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick would have texted me the same thing if I would have been hired. Congratulations, Keyshawn. All Bill Belichick was doing was congratulating one of his former assistants, not realizing it was the wrong assistant head coach. So we know there's a lot to uncover here, like Stephen A. said, and we'll eventually get to it because this story is just beginning. It is nowhere near the end.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.